All right. Good morning and welcome everyone to the 2021 virtual Tillamook County Children's Clean Water Festival. This is day number 5 for our virtual festival this year. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Alex Lee Tigner. I am the Community Education and Engagement Coordinator with Tillamook Estuaries Partnership. And I'll be one of your hosts today. With me is my co-host Bruce Carden, our education assistant. I'll go ahead and let Bruce introduce himself.
Hi, glad you guys are back with us. Looking forward to getting more feedback from you and letting you guys learn a little bit more about your environment you're in.
Great, thank you, Bruce. So in just a minute or so, we're going to hand over the presentation to our guest presenter today, Joslyn Krahel, joining us from Tillamook Forest Center, Oregon Department of Forestry. Joslyn, you want to say hello?
Hello, everybody. I'm so glad to join you today for the Clean Water Festival, and I'm happy to talk to you about the Tillamook State Forest.
So I'm going to hand it over to Joslyn in just a moment, but I want to say a couple of things before we begin. Just a reminder that only the presenters will have our videos and microphones today, but you will be able to send us messages and questions in the chat. Bruce and I will be monitoring the chat during Joslyn's presentation, and then we will open it up for a Q&A session at the end of the program, and we will ask Joslyn the questions that you've sent us. Just a reminder that this session is being recorded, and you'll be able to access it at our Children's Clean Water Festival webpage, which you can find at www.tbnep.org. And don't forget to also visit that webpage to see all of the recordings from our past webinar presentations and activities in our virtual exhibit hall from our partners. And a reminder to everyone that our art contest entries are due to your teachers tomorrow, March 17th. Bruce and I will be coming by on the 18th to pick up all those entries. And if you are not at a K-5 school here in Tillamook, you can also drop off entries here at the TEP office in Garibaldi. Friday between 10 and 2, I'll be here to accept those entries. So you can find out more information on our website. Also, there's lots of information about what that art contest is and how to enter it. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass it off to Joslyn for her presentation.
Thanks so much. Again, hi, everybody. I'm super glad to be here. I'm Joslyn, and I work at the Tillamook Forest Center. So maybe you've been there, maybe you haven't. Right behind me is a picture of our awesome exhibit hall. Maybe museum is a nice word too. I'm gonna lean over so you can see. At the Tillamook Forest Center, we tell the story of the Tillamook State Forest, and we talk about the animals that live there. We talk about the history of the forest, and we talk a lot about how can we keep this forest healthy for Oregonians today and also way into the future. So it's no wonder that I've been invited to chat with you guys today about clean water, because the forest is the source of many rivers and streams. And even though our tap water today maybe doesn't come directly from those rivers, it's probably likely that our water has spent some time in rivers and streams in forests in Oregon. Take a drink of water to enjoy it. So I'm going to share my screen. This is the outside of our Tillamook Forest Center, and you can see it is surrounded by trees because we are tucked into the Tillamook State Forest. So before we get into our state forest and our water, I think it's important to know a little bit about who do I work for and who manages our forest. In this picture, you can see 2 different logos, and both of these logos represent groups who manage land. And I bet by looking at it, you can pick out at least one thing that looks the same or at least very similar in these logos. Maybe take a moment to write in the chat, is there anything that you see that is the same between these 2 logos? Oh, I see a lot of answers that say trees, trees, trees. Absolutely. And they're both green. for sure. So you'll probably notice that they both have green in their logo. They care about things that are green. They both have trees in their logo because these are groups that take care of and care about trees. They even have the word forest or forestry in their names. So the logo that is the shield on this side of the screen, this is the Forest Service, and it is it's a group that manages U.S. forests, and they manage it for all of people that live in the United States. We have some in Oregon, and Mount Hood National Forest is one example. But the Tillamook State Forest, and who I work for, is this circle logo over here, and it is the Oregon Department of Forestry. And this organization takes care of state forests. And so these forests are managed for Oregonians like me and you. And they're managed for a lot of different ways, or a lot of reasons, I would say. And there are many state forests in Oregon. If you see this little half map of Oregon, the Tillamook State Forest, where I'm at, is this big blob. It's the biggest state forest in Oregon. And that's a great place to put a visitor center because there's a road that goes right through the Tillamook State Forest. It connects the coast and it connects people that live in Portland or in the valley. So you got to travel through the forest if you want to go to either of those places. So it's a great place to put the visitor center. But the beautiful forest that we see today wasn't always like that. There was a time, a long time ago, probably around the time your grandparents or maybe even great-grandparents were little kids, when the forest burnt down. A big wildfire came through this area in 1933 and it burnt the forest. But a very strange thing happened after that. 6 years later, another fire burned the forest. 6 years after that, another fire burned the forest. And then 6 years after that, I'm not kidding, another fire burned. So a total of 4 wildfires burned and reburned what we now know as the Tillamook State Forest land. And it left a landscape that looked a lot like this. And Oregonians were sad about it, like this little boy. But Oregonians, we pulled it together and we didn't want to leave it that way. So Oregonians decided they wanted to replant this forest. And it was a lot of work, but this forest that we see today was replanted. And it's most well known for being hand planted. For 1950s and the 1960s, school groups like yourselves would go on field trips and spend some time planting little seedlings. In total, 72 million little seedlings were planted by hand to regrow the forest. And this is a view of the forest today on top of a peak where you can't even tell that the forest ever had that kind of devastating history. It is a sea of green these days. And the Tillamook Forest is used for a lot of reasons. The Oregon Department of Forestry wants to make sure that that doesn't happen again. So we do have firefighters that take care of state lands, not just the Tillamook Forest, but other state lands and even other lands in Oregon. The Tillamook State Forest provides forest products like the ones you see on your screen. Timber, it's good for making houses and wood, paper products that we see. I'm sure you use paper products every day in your life. Of course, when trees are harvested, they have to be replanted. You've got to make sure that it's a sustainable forest and providing for Oregonians today and into the future. Of course, the Oregon Department of Forestry has to manage this land for wildlife as well. We're not the only ones who want to use this forest. There are some native species who use the rivers and the different patches of the forest. And so we want to make sure that whatever we're doing in the forest, that we are taking care of the animals that live there as well. And finally, Oregonians like you and me, we just like to hang out in the forest, right? There's lots of fun things to do in the forest. So there's this one word I want you to know, and it is recreation. Recreation is any fun thing that you want to do in the forest. It's recreating, like these examples you see on the screen. So I would love to know, I'm going to send a poll out and you could fill it out, teachers or students, you could fill it out. I would love to know, how do you like to have fun in the forest? Because there are so many ways you can choose to walk or hike, or maybe you like to go camping. Maybe you like riding bikes. Maybe you just like to do sports outside. Maybe you like to ride motorcycles or quads or four-wheel drive trucks outside, ride horses, go fishing or hunting. Maybe you like to go swimming in rivers, or maybe you just like to just chill outside. If there's something else that was not on this poll, there's a little spot down below that says something else. If your favorite thing was not listed, then go ahead and put something else. So we'll leave it up a little bit and see if anyone fills it out. Oh, I see some in the chat as well. Fishing, horses, I see some answers in there. Nice. Leave it up a little longer. I see about half our viewers today have answered, put their answer in. Oh, I like seeing the bar go up and down. It seems like camping, lots of people like to go camping. Very nearly swimming is another second, very close. And I see where just about everyone's filled it out, but it looks like camping is the lead of everybody's favorite thing to do outside, with going on hikes or walking outside and swimming as a close second. We also have folks that like to go ride their bikes outside or do hunting and fishing. Looks like all of the categories were filled out. So, oh, and just chilling was pretty high up there. Excellent. So I'm going to end this poll. I love to know that you guys are. I'm going to actually share the results as well. There you go, so you can see it too. But I'm happy to see that you all are enjoying the outdoors in a lot of different ways. And so that is what I would love to talk to you about today. I'm going to stop this. Because even though the Oregon Department of Forestry manages the Tillamook State Forest or other forests in Oregon, all of us Oregonians who recreate in the forest have a responsibility as well. Anytime we're in the forest, it's important that we're keeping in mind that we should recreate responsibly, because we're not the only ones out there. We want to leave it a good environment for other people using it, for the wildlife that are out there, and because the forest is the source of many rivers and streams, it's important that we are practicing responsible recreation. So I'd love to share a little video with you. I'm going to stop this one. I'm going to share a video with you. And in this video, we're going to see a camper. The camper is ready to have a great time out in the forest. Great time. But I'm sure you're going to notice in this video that this camper maybe doesn't make the good choices that are good for the water or good for themselves or very respectful to others who might want to use the space after them. So what I'd like for you to do when you watch this video, keep in mind, or maybe keep a log in your head. Can you pick out at least one thing that you see this camper do that maybe they shouldn't do? And we'll take a pause in the middle of the video to find out how many, or if at least one thing that you saw that could be different. So I'm gonna make this big.
Forests are the source of many rivers and streams. As we have fun in the forest, practicing correct camping methods will help keep the water pure and clean. Can you spot the common mistakes this camper makes? Do you think you spotted the mistakes?
I'm going to pause it real quick because I'm seeing in the chat that you were able to pick out at least one mistake. Go ahead and put in the chat, if you haven't already, what did you see that maybe could have been better or done different or not done at all? I'm seeing a lot in the chat here. Littered. Yes, there was a lot of litter. She left bananas around. Camping right next to the stream. Didn't clean up after herself after she went to the bathroom. Putting soap in the water. All kinds of stuff. You guys did a great job picking out many of the things that could have been done different. So the question is, what could we have done different, or what could this person have done different? If obviously they didn't know that they shouldn't do this. So let's watch the rest of the video and find out, well, what could we have done different, or what could this camper have done different? And we will find out what we should do. Let's push play.
Become a camp champ. Follow these responsible tips. Don't leave food scraps and trash. Instead, pack out all trash. Camp 50 steps away from water to prevent erosion and pollution. Only collect fallen twigs for your campfire. Wash dishes away from streams. Soap can be harmful to aquatic life. Stay on the trail. Dig a hole as deep as your shovel blade, far from water, for your toilet. Don't drink directly from the stream. Bacteria in the water can still make you sick. You can help keep water pure and clean by recreating responsibly.
Way to go, everyone, being able to pick out what this camper did that could have been better, could have been different. And at the end of that video, we saw some ways that they could have made their experience better for the water, for themselves, and for other people who want to use that, that space after them, perhaps. I would love to find out if you have any questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Joslyn. That was a fantastic video and very informational. And I just reminded everyone also that in their packets, there are 2 worksheets from Joslyn and the Forest Center that you can complete also that have that are related to the video that you just watched and to the information that Joslyn shared. So we will open it up to questions here. Bruce, do you want to ask some questions?
So Jocelyn, one of the comments, I guess you got to somebody because they're saying, don't come back. So not a question. They just realized, look, if you're going to be that irresponsible, don't bother coming back. But really, we want them to become responsible and enjoy the forest, don't we?
We do, yes.
As far as for questions, a lot of good comments on things where you were having the video play and people actually interacting and spotting things. But I don't have a whole lot of questions. They definitely knew the rights and the wrongs and stuff that come along with that. I do have a question for you though. Is it okay to take your dog out into the forest? Because somebody had put in there that don't take your dog. So what's the deal on that?
That is a good point. So we all love our pets. We want to bring them out there, and it depends on what area you're going to. I know when I go to a state park, they ask that you keep your dog on a leash all the time. At the Tillamook State Forest, it's common that we see pets in the campgrounds. We ask that pets stay on their leashes, on the trails, or when they're swimming in water, it is okay to have them off leash because it's hard to have your dog swimming in the water on leash. So it is okay as long as you are making sure that they are following your directions and that you're cleaning up after them.
So early on, when you were talking about all the fires that had taken place in the Tillamook burn, I know you've got a great display board there at the center that opens it up, but some kids, I guess it's the first time they've heard that, because they were very shocked that had to take, was it every 6 years? Is that what it is? The 6-year curse? Is that what they call it?
Yeah, the 6-year jinx from 1933 to 1950s. It was, not something that is in my memory, but I know my parents remember the area before it was Tillamook State Forest. Often it was just called the Tillamook Burn, and when you drove on the highway that's there today, it wasn't green forest, it was black burnt trees sticking up out of the ground.
One of the questions that came across is, see, where'd it go? Why do you have to camp away from water?
Good question. I was hoping somebody would ask that question. So a couple reasons. One, when you are camping, you put a tent down or you are recreating by the water, every time you put a tent down or you're stepping along the banks of the river, it compacts the ground down, squishes the ground down, and it also erodes the ground. So when we squish the ground down, all the plants that live along the river there, their roots get compacted. And it makes it not easy for them to suck up water and do the job that they would do. And that is keeping the ground there and keeping the water shaded. So it is really impactful, a negative impact on water bodies when humans camp along the right along the water there. So we do say that 100 feet away or 50 steps is a good distance away from water. That way you're not eroding or compacting the ground, and all your activities aren't polluting the water.
One of the questions too, it says, how do you get your water if you get it straight from a stream? Because I think in the video, they drank straight from the stream, right, in the water bottle. And it's like, that's not really good. But what could they do if they were up camping and they're really thirsty?
Another great question. There's a lot of things one could do. Some people plan ahead, and if they're car camping especially, will fill up jugs of water at home and bring it with them. I know some of our campgrounds in the Tillamook State Forest have wells that you can pump and get your water. And some people, if they're backpacking and they're going with nothing, they will bring water sanitizing or purifying equipment with them to make sure that their water doesn't have bacteria in it. Because even though our water looks clean, it might also have bacteria if you're drinking it directly from a wild source.
Those little germs will get you. So this one says, have you noticed if COVID masks are affecting the camping environment in forest?
That is a good question. I do not know the answer to that. I would say that I know in our Tillamook State Forest, we have made plans, or at least last summer we were changing the way that our campgrounds were situated. In some areas where it was way too close together, that 6 feet wouldn't have been manageable. We would say, maybe we're not going to open this campground up to folks, but that still left dispersed camping and other campgrounds to go to.
I wondered, and they didn't put the whole thing, but I'm wondering, I see a lot of face masks like in Fred Meyer parking lot and stuff where people have taken them off and dropped them. I'm wondering if they're thinking, is that
pollution in that way? Oh, that is a great question. And I haven't seen it firsthand myself, but I think that it's good to assume that if people are leaving wrappers and banana peels in the forest, that maybe masks are also another thing that get left behind accidentally.
So like everything else, if you pack it in, pack it out, don't leave it behind.
That is a great, thanks, Bruce. That is perfect. We say that a lot in the forest is if you pack something in, just pack it out with you. Just bring it back home, put it in your trash at home. That way it's not somebody else's problem and critters won't get into it. And it doesn't have to decompose out in the forest.
And then another question is that I think you washed the thing with the soap in the water, and they wanted to know, what does the soap do in the river and how much does it affect it? What's the impact?
That is also a good question. Oh, well, I think I'm going to keep it pretty general on this, but there are critters that live in the water in most places, and some of them are very sensitive to anything that you add into the water, particularly detergents or soaps that you put in the water, and it could possibly kill them or at least make them not do their function the way that they need to in their existence in life. And so just always in general terms, keeping soap away from the water is a great idea because you don't know what's living in the water. Yes, we'll leave it there.
I'm just thinking this whole process, the first day we did the watersheds and how everything comes down in the watersheds, and then the fish, they live there, and then we did the macroinvertebrates.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so you guys know some of the things that live in the water.
All these things that we've been doing really impact what the soap. Do you think, what's a big deal with the soap? But it really is huge because it impacts so many different places along the line. What's the recommended time to stay at a campsite or in a forest when you do go camping?
Awesome. Well, for our state lands, there is actually a limit, a lawed limit saying that campers, for whatever reason, can stay in the forest for 14 days. After 14 days, they need to leave the forest and let that spot be available to other folks. And that is to make sure that the spot that you're choosing to camp at doesn't get eroded, doesn't get polluted, and most of all, to let it be available to other folks who might want to enjoy the forest.
This one is an interesting one because somebody had made a comment, or the banana, when you threw the banana peel over your shoulder, just kind of left it. Somebody said, well, it'll decompose. And this one says, well, how does the banana affect the environment?
Very excellent, because there's different thoughts there. Some people still will leave organic material like bananas or orange peels, leave it out there. Yeah, in some cases it's gonna decompose, right? But if all of us are recreating out there and we're leaving our food to decompose, well, one, that's not respectful to other people that are out there. That just leaves a bunch of junk around. And two, that will impact the wildlife that is out there as well. That will leave things for them to eat that is not normal stuff for them to eat. And in a very big scale, if there was a lot of extra decomposing food that was not natural to that environment, it might have an impact on the water. But mostly, it's just a respectful thing to keep our spaces clean so we can all enjoy the outdoors.
I think when I go someplace and that's pretty when I get there, I should leave it just as pretty for the next person who comes along. That's kind of my thought process. And if you leave like banana peels or orange peels behind, what would it be like if you walked in and you found banana peels and orange peels? It's not the same, is it?
Right.
So this one was an interesting one because it means you have to be prepared, and you were sort of. Well, no, you weren't. When you dig a hole for your bathroom break, does that kill plants? And so maybe talking about making sure you have something to dig a hole with.
Yes, I think that people don't know or aren't usually prepared when they're out in the forest. I would first suggest that if you're in a campground, use the actual toilets that are there. Especially in the Tillamook Forest, there are day use areas where if you need to pull over and go to a vault toilet, use those. Perfect. But if you're way out in nowhere or you are backpack camping, then making sure that you're far away from the water and you have the proper tools. I think a lot of people don't know that, yeah, you should dig a hole that is deep enough, 6 inches, but the size of your shovel blade is a perfect measurement to know what 6 inches is. Bury it up and pack out your toilet paper.
Okay. This one wants to know.
And it
is
might
a-
have an impact on plants, but if you're choosing a spot that is, the ground is clear, then you're good to go.
There you go. Is it okay to burn trash in my campfire? After all, it's going to disappear, isn't it?
I also get that question a lot. Some people still choose to do that, and here is why you might not want to do that. One, some trash, especially aluminum cans, kick off some stuff you do not want to breathe. And so even though maybe it's not blowing in your face, it might be blowing downwind into other campers' faces, and we don't need to be breathing toxic materials that our packaging is made of. And another thing that I bet a lot of people don't know is that when you burn trash, sometimes it doesn't burn all the way. And so it just leaves a very messy campfire for the next person, particularly for folks like me who have to go clean the fires in between visitors. So just being respectful of the environment by making sure that we're not burning trash to, emit toxic ash or fumes, and that other folks don't have to clean it up when you leave that spot.
Great. Well, it's a little bit after 10:30 here, so I'll have that be our last question for the day. We had some excellent questions. Thank you everyone so much.
Way to go, everyone.
And I think we all learned a lot about what we should and shouldn't do when we're going camping and when we're recreating. And I really appreciate this week. We're kind of closing out Clean Water Festival with this a couple of stewardship-oriented presentations, so that we all can take what we learn and actually apply it into when we go outside and recreate and make sure that we're keeping our waterways and our environments clean. So Joslyn, I want to say thank you so much for joining us today and for the wonderful video and presentation. We really appreciate it. And I want to let everyone know we'll be back tomorrow again at 10 a.m. For our last live presentation with Julia Treisenberg from the Columbia River Maritime Museum. And we're going to learn a little bit more about some responsible recreation and how we can interact with our environment and help keep it clean. So again, art contest entries are due tomorrow to your teachers. Or you can drop them off at the Tillamook Estuaries Partnership Building in Garibaldi between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. on Friday, 12 a.m., 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. on Friday. I'll be here at the office to bring those in if you want to drop them off. We'll judge the TEP art contest entries, and then we will submit those entries to the State Fish Art Contest with Wildlife Forever. So thanks again, everyone. Joslyn, I always forget to tell our presenters that when I end this presentation, everybody's going to get kicked off. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, everyone. And this recording will be on our website soon. Have a good morning, everyone.